For anybody unaware, I typically enjoy challenge runs on video games like these. I usually end up completing whatever silly idea it may be in the end, but sometimes at the cost of my sanity. I've been asked many times, is there a particular challenge run I was dead set on completing but quit before I got it? Today, we are going to revisit one of the most annoying challenges for junior me, back when I sucked at this game a lot more than now. Greatbow Only, all bosses plus the DLC. The challenge of using a greatbow is simply that they are the slowest attacking weapon in the game, and much slower than regular bows for that matter. The amount of impact and damage is cool, but you only get one shot every so often, and we need it to count since your character is just sitting there like a dead fish. I remember losing my mind particularly on the DLC. So with that being said, we are aiming to hit hard and pull off stuff like this. Sadly, that's not possible all the time, but where permitted, we will be absolutely sniping some fools. Now, I'm just gonna say at the moment, with how much I actually enjoyed doing this, there is a guarantee that you will see a challenge like this again on other games. I'm not 100% sure about Dark Souls 2, but let me know if you are interested in seeing that. To establish some rules for the run, we're gonna start off with the Dragonslayer Greatbow and 999 of Hawkeye Goughs Great Arrows. The only weapon I will end up using is the Greatbow once the tutorial is done, because I do need to meet requirements for the stats, and I should be able to achieve that pretty quickly once beating the tutorial boss. The Master Key starting gift is absolutely crucial for this run, as we're going to try to do the boss order in the most convenient way to actually survive. It's also very nice that the dexterity and strength almost bridge the gap to the requirements for the Dragonslayer Greatbow with the Hunter class and the fact that it already comes with a bow. Once arriving at Firelink, there is the usual setup that you do in Dark Souls 1 when you're starting a playthrough, typically going under Firelink, grabbing the items from the chests, and so on and so forth. There is one twist on this run that I decided to incorporate because we do need a little bit more souls than normal. Crestfallen has pissed me off time and time again, just having to look at him every time I walk by. I'm gonna kick him off a cliff. And just like that, we're gonna bring the 14 dexterity up to 18, meaning we're only 2 levels away from the requirement for the Greatbow on dexterity, and then we're gonna boost strength right after that. Like a lot of heavy hitting builds, there is the option to run a glass cannon setup for this run, meaning that you're gonna be in red tier stone mode the whole time. I'm gonna grab the red tier stone ring by going through Valley of Drakes and hitting the bonfire in the cave, doubling back and picking it up, but we won't use it all the time due to how slow you actually can land attacks. First giant opportunity to get a massive amount of souls is killing the Black Knight at the end of the cave, but since the bow would do such little damage and we don't really have many arrows left over or a budget to buy many at this point, I'm just gonna backstab him off the cliff. I swear to God, if somebody says that bare fists with no weapons in the slot invalidates this run, I am never doing this again. Sadly, no Black Knight halberd, but that doesn't matter anyways. Moving on, we're just gonna pick up the Grasscrest shield since the stamina is gonna be so huge on this run compared to a lot of other stuff I've done. For what it's worth, I did not write this run down or plan out anything for it really at all. There was minimal research. It was mainly just go into it and do it. So on the fly, as I was going through Darkroot Basin, I had an interesting idea. I wondered, could I kill Havel without a weapon at all? Even my fists? Could I just straight up make him kill himself? So we experimented a little bit with this by going to get Havel's attention, getting him out of the barrier where he backtracks to his default area and pushing him beyond the boundary where he can even attack in the first place. You'll notice that once he gets through the doorway that you're going to be seeing coming up, he won't even try to swing at me. One of the weird quirks about this strategy is, unfortunately, when Havel dies, his ring goes with him and doesn't respawn in the default location, meaning it's just floating below the map. That really sucks, since one of the biggest reasons of killing Havel this early on top of the souls is the equip load boost from Havel's ring. If any of you are starting a new playthrough and want to kill Havel this way yourself, just really make sure that you're kicking him at the right times, because sometimes he has hyper armor, or as some say, poise, and he'll just tank your kick. Nothing will happen and then he won't get sent backwards, resulting in you probably getting slam jammed by his dragon tooth. With Havel dead, we have a surplus of souls to boost our stats almost to the range where we can use the Dragonslayer Greatbow. Unfortunately, we're only 2 levels short on strength at only 18 out of 20, so we're gonna keep pushing on. After gathering some smaller souls, I was able to squeeze that gap of 2 levels to get to 20 strength and 20 dexterity, meeting the requirements for the Dragonslayer Greatbow. Now we're on our way to Quelaag and Blighttown, but right before we fight Quelaag, there's a little bit of a twist. One of my personal favorite rules of this run that I just kind of imposed on myself was being in online mode, meaning that other players can invade me the entire time playing this challenge, and also putting a lot more stress on me to manage my humanities as a resource. Since I'll always have to go back to human, I'm going to be using a humanity every single time I die, meaning I probably won't be able to take advantage of the shortcut to get to Bed of Chaos earlier in the game if I don't play really good. If you have played this before, even outside the scope of other players invading your game and ruining your day, there is the classic case of people like Maneater Mildred and Kirk as well. So right now what we're going to be doing is getting invaded by Maneater Mildred in Blighttown. Reason being, we get some more souls, we get some more humanities, and we already have to hit the bonfire anyways for other reasons, so we might as well just chill in this area and have a little bit of a checkpoint. May this be the first lesson for everybody that the Greatbow is incredibly slow. Maneater Mildred kicked my ass more times than I want to admit, and it's so nice that I had that bonfire because my god, look at the windows to attack on this. The absolute scariest thing about this engagement is that Maneater Mildred's a really easy NPC, like stupid easy compared to all the NPCs across all the Souls games. So could you imagine doing this on Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3 and trying to fight a armed to the teeth DLC NPC invader of some sort? I ended up figuring out that if you try to use the ladder, climb up it, circle around the outside of the arena and fall back in, you can make Maneater Mildred constantly go back to the ladder and climb, and you get a free shot every single time you do that. Now, after experimenting with different variations and having her still catch up, that was the surefire way to land a little bit of extra damage before she actually gets in my face. That almost 9k on the soul count from killing Mildred's just nuts for something this early in the game. And that's exactly why I wanted to do it. I want to have a nice head start and have good damage because it's going to fall off very quickly. With the boosted early game budget, we're going to level strength to 23, getting a bit more damage, as even though Quelaag is kind of simple in general, she does have a lot more health than something like Gargoyles, so we want to hit pretty hard. There definitely are quite a few windows on Quelaag to get the sniper hits in, but unfortunately your lag time is so bad after every shot that it's not worth most of them. So what I ended up doing was exclusively waiting for her to spit lava in the long animation that she does to guarantee that I have enough safety to get my shot, and then as soon as I'm recovering, she's about to attack again. There are some other opportunities I did take into account and tried out, but you'll see how close they are. Other than needing to go pretty much hitless on this fight, there's nothing else that's too crazy. You just don't want to queue up an arrow at the wrong time by accident when you're just meaning to be running away or something. After Quelaag is defeated, one of the most important things we're going to do is hit the Daughters of Chaos bonfire for later, since we're still going to actually go and do Centipede Demon and Fire Sage, meaning the shortcut doesn't matter that much in the end. Kind of only matters if I want to change the order of bosses. So we'll hit that bonfire for later. We're going to go and get Ceaseless Discharge to get that 20,000 bonus and boost us up for Gargoyles. Also acquiring an armor set that will be pretty crucial in most of the run because it's lightweight, and even though we don't have Havel's Ring to boost equip load, it's the perfect combination with the Greatbow to get good defenses across the board, which is the Gold Hem set. Trigger warning, I punched Ceaseless's hand. As I was on the move back from Quelaag's domain, it came across my mind that the damage we're going to be doing very quickly in this run will become so bad that Red Tearstone alone is too risky to rely on, so I need something else than just stats. Even increasing strength and dexterity later on in this, you'll notice, doesn't bring the weapon's damage up so much that it's impressive. So we have to go after none other than Power Within, which was actually used on the last challenge run I did for Dark Souls 1. It's not a common thing that I grab that often, but luckily we have a ranged weapon to deal with the octopus this time, so it's a lot easier. I did see the comments about being able to kill the octopus from behind, which I completely forgot about, so thank you for calling me out on that. Anytime I'm wrong on any of this stuff, just all capitals in the comments, call me out for being a goober, please. Getting up to the upper level of Blighttown with this weapon and such a low amount of health this early. In fact, actually the health hasn't even been boosted since it's been stock. It's a little scary, I'll be honest, but we did make it. We did get Power Within, but don't forget there's one thing we actually need to use Power Within, which is the Pyromancy Flame, and one of the most accessible ways to do it on this run will just be going along with the completion of all bosses and just making sure we kill Capra earlier than later so we can get the key to the depths. But streamer, how will you possibly get to Lower Undead Berg without doing all of the other things and getting the key? Well, I'm just gonna do the Capra skip. I don't know what you're gonna do, but I'm doing Capra skip, so deal with it. Thank God the great arrows I have can one-shot the thieves in the alley as well as the dogs, because I almost died here so many times from stupid stuff, as usual. Just a little bit trickier with a slow weapon, as I will keep mentioning. Now, I'm sure you can all imagine how stupid Capra Demon's arena will be with this weapon. Using the staircase method as usual is kind of annoying because the dog will bite in between every shot you do, canceling your attack, meaning that you literally have to get lucky to get your attack, or do it so early that he shows up at the perfect time you release the attack. I'd still call that kind of lucky. But anyways, got through the dogs, and Capra Demon took quite a big hit from the bow. After killing Capra, rescuing Laurentius, and getting that pyromancy flame back in Firelink, I realized there were some guests that were invited to my place that I didn't know of. And I'm not sure who invited them, but I think the only solution is to kill them. Mostly every single time I try to kill Petrus and Irina, etc., it goes pretty well. This is a little bit different. It's not that easy. Let's just say it got so ugly that things migrated to a different location. That's kind of wild. Also, is it just me, or does the effect from Power Within in the remastered version of Dark Souls look exactly like the effect you get from being rank 2 in the Brotherhood of Blood Covenant in Dark Souls 2 for PvP, but wearing the human ring? Let me know. After killing these nerds, it was on to gargoyles. But just before we go in the arena, we have the opportunity to kill Lautrec while he's still in his cell. Since I picked the Master Key, and we did Quelaag first, this is the last opportunity we have before he kills our Firekeeper and prevents me from kindling, which would essentially increase the flask count at the Firelink bonfire. This kind of situation is crucial to avoid in this run because I need 20 flasks to secure the fight with 4 kings. We already know that 4 kings is a damage over time type of fight where if you damage them too slowly, you'll probably lose. And so with this, because I can't boost my health an incredible amount till later on without sacrificing damage, and we need to kill Pinwheel to even kindle Firelink. We're not doing that early, of course. We're gonna do it when we have the Lord Vessel and can warp, because I'm not doing Tomb of Giants backwards. Are you crazy? So with all that being said, we're gonna kill Lautrec right away. We're gonna get the Favor and Protection Ring, which is great. That's gonna actually take away some of the pain that we're feeling from missing out on Havel's ring. It will increase the equip load a little bit, and it's gonna increase my stamina, which will actually allow me to do a shot with the bow and still have stamina remaining. Seems kind of underrated, but until I level my endurance to the point where I can actually achieve that naturally, it's a huge difference in timing. When stamina goes negative in this game, it takes a little bit to come back, so your input might not even register when you're trying to roll away after an attack. This makes it so much nicer where if you preload the button by shooting and then rolling right away, it'll automatically kick in. Keep in mind, when I entered that gargoyle fight, I only had Power Within activated, no red Tearstone ring at all, and look at this damage. With a bit more Twinkling Titanite put on the weapon and Red Tearstone combined with Power Within, we probably would have got a one-shot on each one of them. Now, since we're not trying to go for a one-shot run particularly, I'm perfectly fine with this, and it's also nice because the gargoyles get staggered immediately from being impacted by the great arrows, as you're going to see some other enemies do as well. Not all of them are that squishy, but this is one of the only reasons why I was able to attack and escape each time. Now, even though that gargoyles fight was kind of satisfying, I need something else. It's like that boom headshot guy from back in the day, FPS Doug, when he was just like, you know, every time he's got a sniper rifle in his hands, it just points to someone's head automatically without him even doing anything. So we're just going to absolutely decimate this guy right here. But of course, we're going to buy the Homeward Bones first because we need some of those. Very satisfying. With both bells rung, mid-game is now available, but we're not gonna go there quite yet. I wanna go to Darkroot Forest and see if I can somehow defeat Sif early to make it a lot easier later on, since I'm pretty decent at Sif's fight, and the damage isn't gonna change that much if I do them after Ornstein and Smough, which you'll probably see later on in the game. Another thing is that Sif is kind of dangerous to fight with Red Tearstone Ring, even though I am pretty good at her. Her paw, as she jumps back, will do tick damage to you, and after a few of those, you'll just be dead if you're in Red Tearstone health range. So there's almost no point of trying to manage that, as you're gonna have to keep setting up your health over and over again by getting damaged enough to be in range. So I just went with Power Within for Sif, kept it pretty simple, which you'll see soon. Before that, we do have to take out Andre to get the crest to the forest. That 20,000's not coming out of my bank, dude. Let's just steal it. Joining the Forest Covenant is mandatory because we're gonna get that Darkwood Grain Ring from our ninja friend right here, which, even though I'm not gonna use necessarily all the time, super helpful in having extra mobility with the fact we are a little bit more defenseless on this run. Apparently I got invaded by this guy, and the area is a little big, but it's not so big that he's not going to be able to find me. So I waited at the fog gate for a while, got a bit bored because he was taking too long, and was like, you know what? It's going to be a pain in the ass running back through everything again if I do die, so screw this guy. Let's just fight someone else if they invade us. The back and forth on Sif was quite dynamic in the sense that I learned to punish almost every attack she does, with the conclusion that the double 360 is probably the safest thing because you have such a large window after she's done it that I think even if you're kind of sloppy, it gives you a bit of a buffer. There is this really uncomfortable and weird strategy of shooting arrows at Sif while you're underneath her by just kind of free aiming in front of you. And you'll see I do get one of those on her kneecap, that back right knee, but it's kind of tricky to do. And it's such a small object you're trying to hit, even though it is close and it's moving so often that you're probably better off hitting her from farther away. Now, how far away exactly? I mean, medium to long distance. distance, sure, both are applicable, but medium seems safer because you can still bait more attack recoveries, whereas if she's just running up to you and you're shooting, you're probably going to get hit because you won't get your stamina back in time. I was super tempted to use that red tear stone setup to my advantage that was sort of impromptu, then chickened out of it, got a little greedy with my shot, and unfortunately, Sif got me. Now, on the way back, I was a little bit curious, and usually when I'm curious, either really, really good things happen that are awesome, or like terrible things happen, mostly terrible things. But this time though, I remembered we have power within, and Taurus Demon's still alive, who's pretty weak. So nothing like getting a good old 2-shot on Taurus Demon, which is I think the first time I've ever 2-shot a boss in any of these games with a ranged weapon. That's just nuts. Now, we're gonna go backwards, and the Hydra is still next up on the list. The Hydra could be killed from a distance above Darkroot Basin, where Sif would have been. If I backtracked from the arena, I could have gotten to a ladder that drops down to a cliff overlooking the waterfall, and that would be the smartest thing to do because we don't even have to have the ring that boosts the distance of arrows to still do decent damage. I already tested this a little bit way back, so I know it works, but it would take a little bit of time, and it's not as fun as just going straight up and brute forcing Hydra in its face, right? So let's do that. Note to self: kill the crystal guys before you fight Hydra. This method of baiting Hydra's heads back to the island and shooting from a distance is just so satisfying and fun that I actually heavily implore all of you to try this just by itself. The angles and the timing you have to hit the heads as they're moving backwards through space and everything, very satisfying if you're super nerdy like me. The Hydra does give us a little bit of a boost of souls, but the main reason having it done this early is just to make sure the DLC is already set up and ready to go when we get late game. Now, Sif is still alive, as you might remember, so let's go back and clean that up too. Random thought, but imagine this. Sif has 1 HP left, goes into Limpy mode, does a kamikaze all-out martyrdom attack, where she throws herself in the air, dive bombs with a spiral, slamming the sword into the ground, with it falling out of her mouth completely, and then just lays there. But it does 1,000,000 damage. Amazing, right? That'd be cool. I'm calling missed opportunity on that one. As you can see with the Sif Souls, we're putting it a dexterity at 25. It does boost the damage of the weapon quite a bit, but like the overall damage of the weapon is just not that great because the DPS on it. So imagine we get it to like 500, 600 damage on 1 hit, and then you factor in everything's defense. You're just not gonna hit that number again for a while. If you have a weapon that's half the damage of that, but it swings every second, you're already cooking. That's the big takeaway here. So there's gonna be a point very soon where I stop leveling damage for this exact reason and just pump health so I can survive. Sense Fortress is just pure speedrun mode, but I will grab the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring, and I also am gonna include the Steel Protection ring that I grabbed on the last challenge we did, because again, this build doesn't have as much defense and we're open for hits a lot of the time. Since we already handled Capra, Taurus, and some select other early bosses, I don't think we're gonna really need the cage key, especially because upgrade material wise, there's not much going on here yet. So I'm just gonna go and get the merchant across the bridge, and we're not gonna go all the way down to get the key for any reason. Now that we got some extra firebombs for later, let's head back, and okay, I fell down, unfortunately. So I guess while we're down here, we could grab the Flame Stoneplate ring. Super underrated. I think it's actually kind of good, but who knows? Getting the giant that throws the bombs at the top of Iron Golem's tower to stand in the doorway and shoot his hand is a classic that I will never not enjoy. With him dead, it makes it a little bit easier for us to navigate the full arena, as I wasn't certain I'd be able to get him to topple over and fall off the ledge with this slow of a weapon. Shooting his feet was still the strategy, just to get him to calm down for a little bit. But with the opportunity we have presented in front of us now, there's only one way we can really aim to kill him. Don't even lie to me and tell me that you thought that's how he was gonna die. I did not expect an arrow up the butt. With the amount of hours I have in practice on Ornstein and Smough, I felt confident enough to still boost dexterity at this point. But on the plus side, pretty much every smaller enemy in the game will now be a one-shot. Except this second Pain and Guardian guy, because he's got invisible force fields in front of him for some reason. Even though we have the perfect build to do the rafter section very nicely and smoothly, I'm still gonna do the gangster life drop from the ledge right over the handrail. From here, speedrunning to the ledge of death is the only last bit of information needed to get inside Anor Londo. Now, how exactly will we deal with the guy on the ledge if he was to attack me and I parried him? I'm not exactly sure, because he did the thrust attack and I did pull him back. He ran off the ledge himself, and I'll never get to know that until I play again. If you end up trying this challenge and you deal with that Silver Knight face to face, back and forth, let me know how you dealt with him with the bow particularly. Though this wasn't mentioned earlier, we do have the Dragonslayer Greatbow upgraded a little bit from some Twinkling Titanite we got earlier in the game, but now with with the giant blacksmith homie unlocked, we're definitely gonna max it out because that should have been done as soon as possible. This Ornstein and Smough fight is the perfect example of this game in a nutshell. Look how smoothly everything starts off. It's the antithesis of the fight I had on the previous run I did with the dragon setup. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch and see how bad the first ONS fight was in that one. But this is literally perfection, and then within a snap of a finger, it turns into you're dead. With some close calls and the perfect balance of aggression and patience, we actually did it. Thankfully, it didn't take too long, and Smough is always really easy in phase 2 anyways, but ironically, he doesn't stagger as often as I thought he would from the great arrows. There's only one correct thing to do before leaving this area.
Thou hast journeyed.
The next sequence of fights is a little bit of a combo I prefer on a lot of runs that I do. Makes it very smooth to set up a lot of different things, and they all kind of blend into each other. We're gonna go back and we're gonna get the Rite of Kindling from Pinwheel so we can have that boosted Firelink bonfire for flasks regarding 4 kings later. And just because Pinwheel's pretty easy, we're gonna go and get the Skull Lantern after Pinwheel to be able to trade for the Fog Ring, complementing the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring we already grabbed, making us fully stealthy. And then when we're already trading the Skull Lantern, we're in the Undead Asylum, so we might as well kill the Stray Demon. Killing Stray Demon leads us to the Doll for the Painted World, and now we have the key for that as well. Now, Pinwheel, absolute joke. Just watch this fight. Stray Demon, he's a little bit harder, but I will say though, it's nice that we did him later in the game rather than earlier because he is a bit tanky. One thing that kind of sucks for Stray Demon too is that when the fight persists for so long, the arena is not too complimentary to you escaping the explosions that he does, and you can end up getting trapped in a corner where there's no room to move. This is avoidable if you're really good, but it's hard to see coming ahead of time when you've already been playing the fight for like, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. So doing this much earlier would just be nonsense. Before challenging Gwyndolin in Anor Londo, there was still some unfinished business there. Now, you might say this is completely over the top and unnecessary for such a run like this, and especially regarding a friendly NPC like the Brass Firekeeper. Well, I will tell you at this point, I have a straight up addiction to standing 10 paces away from somebody in the dark while naked and shooting them in the head with a giant weapon that doesn't make any sense. In video games, allegedly. What absolutely blew my mind here is that she decided to buff as a response to me shooting her in the head, which was a really silly decision, but then I missed because I'm just that bad. And then she just turned around and gave me a free headshot again. Who does this stuff? I can't even make it up. That's ridiculous. Brass Firekeeper down, another Firekeeper soul for some extra humanity if we need it later. That's what it's going to be good for, especially kindling. We'll take that. We're going to go fight Gwyndolin and be extra careful because again, timing on him is crucial. Every time you reach him, he teleports. And so I tried to screw around with the max range I could be at, where it's just enough to be able to hit him, but then not enough for him to attack me, and it didn't work out too well. That is something I'm very curious about though. Is it possible to kill Gwyndolin with projectiles before he fires an attack? Let me know. Well, there was unfortunately a time where I publicly stated that if Gwyndolin ever killed me on a challenge run that I was streaming, I would quit and just delete the channel. Now, I don't think he's killed me since I said that on a stream, but because this is offline, we're good. It's still so embarrassing though, right? While embracing my newfound sense of curiosity and adventure, I decided to not be a complete dumbass and go back and fight him again, embarrassing myself 2 times in a row. So now we're gonna go to Archives and get everything ready to acquire the pendant for the DLC, as well as challenging Seath the Scaleless. Not that it was even close to necessary, but after acquiring the pendant, I decided to brute force the Duke skip until I got it. It didn't take too many times, surprisingly, but for fellow Duke skippers out there, you guys know that there's this urge, this force calling you to do it every time you walk through Archives, because just bearing the thought of going to the prison and having to escape normally, disgusting. Which is basically just my way of saying I'm lucky that I'm not doing Deathless or Hitless, and I can could get away with screwing it up. The rest of Archives was quite a cakewalk, and Seath does melt hardcore from these arrows. Just a little sketchy when you're trying to find your place to shoot and then try to make sure that he doesn't do an attack that boxes you into a corner or right against his stomach. I've talked about this here and there before, but if anyone doesn't know, Seath does this weird thing where he's kind of searching for the player character, and if you're slightly off center at a medium distance, he'll keep approaching you in a direction, but kind of lose the train of thought and go sideways. If you start to see him kind of go diagonal or sideways across your line of sight and your medium distance, you are free to attack him without him being able to retaliate at all. He'll have to actually correct his position a little bit after that to be able to initiate the attack. And when you get really used to seeing this state of the actual character model, you can sort of manipulate the fight where you only attack during those times where he is essentially searching. Now, you don't want to get cornered by the limitations of the arena and his big crystal attack regardless. Super important still, but keep that in mind. With 2 of the 4 Lord fight bosses done, we only have 4 kings and Bed of Chaos left. For some reason, I was very compelled to just go and set up New Londo Ruins and try 4 kings the normal way, which with the way that I'm explaining it would be really light armor setup, trying to do a lot of damage, be aggressive, try to not get hit at all. Look how that went. I genuinely did not feel like going back and fighting 4 kings again, even with a different method for what it's worth. So we're gonna wrap up some other bosses that are still remaining. Unfortunately, I forgot Moonlight Butterfly earlier in the game on the way to Sif, so we're gonna clean her up really quickly right now. Another missed yet spicy opportunity would have been grabbing the stone armor while being chased by the Forest Covenant on the way to Sif. Little risky, but you know what? We're trying it out this time. Same kind of method, same idea. They're right behind me. Whew. Oh my God. Here is where the sad reality begins. I thought, hey, let's just get one of the best armor sets with tons of poise and the maximum amount of Estus flasks we can to fight 4 kings. A classic strategy that works. Unfortunately, in this case, it doesn't matter. It's still kind of hard. We died again on 4 kings with the new updated method of what you would call poise chugging and just trying to tank a lot of the hits. And also for anyone that doesn't know, their weapon hits less damage at the handle, so if you're really close to them, it's a little bit safer. To be fair, my Estus is still super weak at this point, so it was a great idea going and using one of the Firekeeper souls we had on the back burner to increase the strength of the Estus flask. As I level the health, it's going to be really hard to fill up that entire bar anyways, so I might as well do that. I think other than randomizers, this is one of the few runs I've ever done where I'd actually increased the Estus flask. Now, here's a slight plot twist. To my recollection, when I originally attempted this challenge and quit way back when, I had tried to attempt the DLC last. Now, I'm gonna throw the DLC in a little bit earlier so we can actually get some souls for 4 kings so we can level health. Because though the DLC is very, very hard and technically more challenging than 4 kings, there is no aspect of time. I could fight those bosses for 4 years straight without stopping and they won't guaranteed kill me. 4 kings will kill you within a handful of minutes if you don't kill them quick enough. That's just how it is. Sanctuary Guardian, though very, very aggressive, has a pretty low health pool and can be staggered a lot easier than other bosses. Plus, if you notice, when it does its dive bomb attack and flies down into the ground, it actually kind of shakes its head and has to get back into the groove of things. So right there, you have a free window that's just given to you every single time, as well as some other attack opportunities, but I definitely urge you guys to not attack during his melee attacks with the headbutts and the swipes. That final shot though, oh my. After some treacherous cardio, we are arriving at what was the downfall of this run previously, Artorias of the Abyss with a Greatbow. I can't remember that vividly what specifically kept killing me on him, other than the notion that I was just way too slow to get away with any shot and that his health was decent enough where you fight him for a while. Now, Playing him now, it feels a lot different. It definitely was much easier, but he is a good fight. I found some very sneaky and interesting opportunities just from doing spacing and not even rolling some of the attacks, pivoting, queuing up an attack as the character's settling into position, and then locking on right when I fire the shot. That was such a nice little bit of time gain that it gave me the buffer to get the shots off early as he's still recovering in engagements that normally you wouldn't try to attack in, even with a weapon. So this was really fun. As many of you might know, Artorias is one of my favorite bosses of the Souls trilogy, and it is my favorite boss in this game particularly. So killing him was special. It wasn't just satisfying, but I felt like I finally made amends for this hole that was in my heart of a run. If I had to go back and fight Artorias again like this, I would totally activate Red Tearstone mode, grab the Sanctus, put on Power Within, and just do the super hyper mode kind of setup where you're doing tons of damage, because I feel like I could kill him hitless with the bow now that I know the strategy. You do just have to survive for so long though, even with Power Within being used here and no Red Tearstone ring. Funny story I got for you. On the way over to the next destination, I got absolutely obliterated by this guy. If you remember when I played the randomizer run on Dark Souls 1, this was the worst enemy in the entire list. Absolutely broken. For the amount of shit that I talked towards him and the amount of times I've killed those guys in randomizers and just hated it, this one wanted to get some vengeance on me for whatever reason. Good job, bravo. But that doesn't mean me, as schemy as I am not going to respond with a quit out, of course, because quit outs are fine. I will say though, it would have been really funny if I was invaded by another player, because then I wouldn't have been able to quit out other than Alt F4. Now on to bigger and better things in the realm of Manus, Father of the Abyss. Now Manus typically is one of the hardest fights in the game and regarded as one of the hardest bosses in games, etc., whatever. Ironically, in this challenge, his phase 2 where he uses the magic is easier than phase 1, which is the exact opposite in mostly every other challenge I've done on this game. So in phase 1, the part that's kind of tricky is he'll be doing a lot of short attacks and combos and all these things, and there's a variation where his finger kind of like pops and does this weird animation to let you know that he's going to recover a little longer that time. You got to be on the lookout for that as usual with melee weapons, but the catch with this is once he does recover that, he's in range to just straight up juggle your ass. So if you get even caught in just the wisp of the outside of his fingertips as he's doing the big combo, you'll probably get sucked into it and just be dead from full health. To avoid this, we're trying to work medium range, long range, but you'll notice even on the swipe that he does too, to get outside the range of that swipe and still fire a shot in time before he gets right towards you, it's tricky. Like you're literally just like an inch away from his finger at times. Now when the magic phase pops up, it's so much easier. That circle that comes in from the outside and closes in on him, you run in when that's happening, you have a free window right there. You have like almost maybe 2 shots that you could do. And so you'll notice it gets easier as we go. Pick your poison between Kalameet, Manus, and Artorias. I do believe Kalameet, after playing this, is the most enduring fight in the sense that it could actually last the longest. You have that main opportunity when he breathes fire for a long time to attack him, but you'll notice the damage is just so low that the likelihood of him doing that over and over again and you just burning down the health on him, it's not too high. So we're gonna have to survive for a while. There's something I've talked about in the past called the special eyeball shot on Kalameet, where when you hit his eye as he's doing a fire breath attack or at any point in time, he'll have this special stagger animation, but it also does more damage too, and it's really hard to actually aim and hit. I've only done it a handful of times in my life, and I got so lucky that I was able to actually pull it off in this particular fight. Look how much more damage you get if you can hit this pixel perfect eyeball thing. Oh my god. Now, I'm not sure if the Great Arrow's surface area changes how easy it is to actually hit the eye, because in previous experience, so many different projectiles I've thrown at him, it doesn't really seem that much easier depending on what you use. But try this yourself, super satisfying and actually a quicker way to kill him too. Now that we got to go back to 4 Kings and make amends for the past, I decided to somehow level more damage and not as much health as I recall doing on this challenge. I think I was just really certain in my method, and I'd had a close call on an armor attempt on them before using the stone armor and the chugging method. So with a very slight increase in health and almost maxing out the damage we can get out of this weapon, let's go and see what happens. Yeah, Yeah, you feel that? You feel that? Pain and suffering. Pain and suffering, my friends. Yet another failed attempt at 4 kings, probably because I don't have enough health. Somebody tell this guy to level up vitality, you absolute buffoon. That's okay though, luckily there is some other things to still get done for all the bosses to be completed in the game. So let's start working on Daughter of Chaos area and kill Demon Fire Sage into Centipede and Bed of Chaos first. Fire Sage is very similar to Stray Demon, but he does fly and do the butt slam more often, so amazing opportunity to kill him very fast. Centipede Demon's a pretty decent fight because it has very, very low HP and defense, so he dies quicker. And then after trekking through all of Izalith to Bed of Chaos, you will be happy to know that I did in fact kill Bed of Chaos officially with a Great Arrow. Watch. Last time I checked, firebombs aren't a slotted weapon, but equipment, buddy. So now 3 of the 4 Lord fights are done, but 4 kings still stand, and my stubbornness is slowly decreasing and easing into the realm of leveling more health. But there's still other bosses to kill, and we can get some more souls to level that health with. Gwyndolin was one I almost forgot about, and I kind of had a mild panic attack because I was like, what if I just beat this whole challenge and I forgot Gwyndolin? At the beginning of the Gwyndolin fight, I sort of achieved what I was after by shooting him before he can attack me, but unfortunately I did trigger him to teleport, and what I was really after is, can you make him teleport like late and essentially just kill him on the spot? Luckily, this is already looking a lot better, and being a person that has more than 100 IQ, I think it's simple enough to maneuver through the pillars and not get shot through them by magic and just strafe the arrows like a good boy. Now here's the #1 rookie mistake of the year. Killing Gwyndolin without hitting the bonfire, so you have to run all the way back just to get to the painted world, which you already have the key for, but then the lift is all screwed up, so you got to do like the rafters with Painted Guardians again. Madness. Luckily, the environment of Painted World is so short to run through if you do this particular shortcut. Now, you could consider it sort of a glitch. You do actually end up rolling off of the ledge or falling onto this invisible platform, which is actually just collision for the wall. So you're actually standing on something that is programmed in the game, but it's not supposed to be a platform. You can actually kind of peel around the corner if you go backwards from here, and then that collision breaks off into open air, and you can fall off that invisible platform right onto the bridge below, where you're now on the other side of the big door you would have had to have ventured to open from the inside. Priscilla by no means is hard, but she was scaring the shit out of me for some reason. I wasn't really able to figure out where she was and land that first arrow because it's a little bit slower than a regular arrow, right? But once I did, then I realized, I'm like, oh, she's just gonna be visible, and it was a cakewalk after that. All right, here's a super hot take. As of lately, this is how I'm feeling about Dark Souls 1. Pinwheel is actually better than Gaping Dragon. Just saying, Gaping Dragon's kinda shitty. There's not much that he does, and for being such a cool design and having so many abilities, he doesn't use them in a way that's effective that much, and yeah, huge arena, nothing really scary about Gaping Dragon. Now, Gaping Dragon on randomizer in a small arena, try that out. With my health bar having a little bit of a growth spurt since the last 4 Kings attempt, we are now golden. The thing that kind of gets me about this though, that's annoying, is like, I actually didn't use as much Estus as I thought I would or struggle as much on the final fight, as it sometimes goes with multiple attempts on hard games. Sadly, if there was some sort of way I could cast power within 2 times in a row, but still have the same amount of health and defense, I would love that as an option because that alone would actually speed the fight up by such a significant amount of time. You really lose a lot of the time once multiple spawn and you're having to heal because they're hitting you out of the corner of the screen. Not so much from fighting one-on-one while there's others floating around. That's not a big deal. Not to mention, you get that tip of the blade from out of nowhere from another 4 King that you're fighting. That might actually kill you because it does way more damage than the hits that you're taking in your face. And yes, I did just refer to a singular guy as 4 King. Just deal with it. Now off comes the heavy stone armor and back to the black hem set. We only have the equip load to swing the gloves and the skirt with the shield and the bow equipped, unfortunately, but this should be decent defense against Gwyn as he is a fire type, and it does resist against fire pretty well. That's why a lot of people will use it in Izalith to go across the lava paired with the orange ring. Even without the orange ring, it's pretty good defense. My method to kill Gwyn was not premeditated whatsoever before this, so I actually had a few ideas as soon as I walked in the arena, and I would say straight up fighting him back and forth aggressively just simply doesn't work because he will outspeed you in almost every scenario, and it tends to feel like the momentum you actually gain on him is simply just lucky at that point. It has nothing to do with your skill. I tried to use the environment to get him stuck on different things. There's just not enough time, opportunity, or windows. With the regular type of bow that I've used on Gwyn, he does input, read, and sidestep quite often, which is similar with this weapon too, but just how infrequently you shoot leads you into a situation where he's going to be up in your face. So keeping him at a distance with projectiles from magic or typical bows is usually the play. On this one, what I ended up doing in the end was we went in for a regular parry point blank, pretty aggressive, walked around him as he's recovering, and then that forces him to need to turn around. He can't just straight up attack from that position if you're in the right spot. So he starts to turn a little bit, we get that moment where we can shoot, boom, and then we get ready for the quick attack that he's gonna do half the time or whatever it is. And just in case he does that, I mean, you can block, you could just tank it because we have enough health at this point, and then we parry the follow-up. Follow-up for the quick swing can be another quick swing. You can do a few. He can go into like the two-hand attack and all that. Two-hand attack's very easy to parry. So this is a very simple method for Gwyn. I'm very happy that it worked out well. And 4 Kings was definitely the crux of this run. And Artorias was defeated, which is actually kind of the point of why I went back to do this in the first place. You guys also did ask me to do this run quite a lot on stream. So even though it's not live at the moment, here you go. And expect more Greatbow runs. Which game would you like to see a Greatbow run on next? Very curious. And any other ideas that are wacky you guys have, throw them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. And if you aren't already subscribed and notified, make sure you are. I will see you in the next video.